Hey everyone, my name is Drew and we are here, and this is going to be week number 3 of the UPBA Season 4, and we are going to be up against Vepsis and his Helsinki Kai Dragons. Now, we have played him a bunch now, and it's been a lot of fun. I believe we are 2-3 against him lifetime, and we've gone back and forth a ton, but one thing's always been certain: our games have always just gone right down to the wire. Our first couple games back in the USUM era both went down to under 10 minutes on the old 60-minute timer, which was nuts. Our first game in Sword and Shield, I won on timer, and I think our most recent match, both of us came down to 20 seconds on our own 10-minute chess timer. So it's always been really stressful. It's always been really fun, but we are back again. And you can see he has RESHIRAM, an absolute monster, and it's going to be a problem to deal with. But honestly, it's not even going to be the biggest thing that I think I have to deal with here, because I was terrified in building for a Nidoqueen here. And obviously he has a ton of threats, but I think everything that he brought, I really hard expected. I do definitely think these are the 6 that made the most sense. These are the mons that I expected the most, except for maybe the Aggron. I really thought the Buzzwole would come instead of the Aggron, but it's not like I completely don't have anything for the Aggron. I think he kind of expected me to either prepare for the Buzzwole or Aggron, but not both, and I was really undecisive, so my Kyurem can kind of deal with both. We're gonna kind of see how it goes, but I do somewhat feel like I have my bases covered, right? And honestly, the big design of this team is just to not lose to the combination of Nidoqueen and RESHIRAM, and if I can outlast those two Pokemon in particular, then as long as I have a good amount of damage on the team, I think that I can close things out with a combination of either my Kyurem or my Blacephalon. That's kind of where my head was at for the overall kind of look of this team and look of this build for this week. And like in previous weeks, I do think I have some fun ways of getting there, but I'm gonna get right into this game. So I did lead off with the Seismitoad, as you guys can see, and the biggest thing I was honestly afraid of was leading badly against a Nidoqueen, because the Nidoqueen can, again, it can set up rocks, it can do all these types of things, but it can also just be a massive terror to my team, and it can get off so much damage that I felt like I need something that would scare it right away, that would at least put on some pressure early. And even if I get caught flat-footed against some other lead, it's better than getting caught flat-footed against the Nidoqueen, right? And the Premier is in here. That's honestly really scary, but I think it's so infinitely better than being caught in a bad position vis-a-vis a Nidoqueen lead. Now, I go right out into Togekiss. It has a ton of special defense. It's my most specially defensive mon. I've really had to scout for a potential energy ball. I didn't think he'd be so bold as to go for a flip turn, but I really did expect this mon to have flip turn on it. So that's going to be something that I'm watching for the rest of the game. But here, I'm not entirely sure what I want to do here. I do kind of expect a flip turn to come out here, right? I'm not entirely sure what this Premier is going to be. Obviously, I don't even think I calc this early on. I think I was still kind of getting my bearings and kind of getting a feeling for what kind of a matchup this was going to look like. But I tried to get off a Thunder Wave, right? Obviously, it didn't work out for me. I obviously would have been better off getting some damage, especially, you guys can see this thing is Kepi Berry. It's designed to at least take on, or at least not completely go down to a potential Nidoqueen. So if this thing is super offensive, I actually would have been better off by going for an air slash, getting damage off, taking a hit with a Kepi Berry, and then air slashing again, and it at least like threatens to do it, or like makes it kind of puts some things in range of rocks, and it probably would have been a lot better off if I'd made some different plays early on. But again, I'm trying to get my bearings. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing here as he goes for Toxic Spikes. Now that makes me think a lot of things, right? It makes me think that this thing might not be a super offensive modest Life Warp set, right? That's my first thought, right? And I know that Vepsis also likes Scarf. I've seen him run Scarf, and so I had that in the back of my head as well. I was definitely fearing that for a ton of the game, and I'm trying to think here what I want to do. I don't particularly think he wants to stay in. I think I'm obviously hovering over knockoff. I'm trying to gauge out what he would want to do here, and it's honestly tough. I ultimately go for the Earthquake, but there's a ton of options here, right? Switches out. Again, I didn't read too much into it at the time. Goes into Primarina. And I think I did. Oh, I remember why I was hovering over knockoff for so long. I was actually calculating out to see what the damage difference would be between Earthquake and Poison Jab, and Poison Jab barely did more than Earthquake, so I just decided Earthquake covered more, and so I just went for that instead. However, because I ran those calcs, I did see how defensive this Primarina was, and I was able to clock that reasonably early. And I knew that this thing was going to be pretty dang defensive. Which honestly, when I first saw how defensive of a Primarina this was, first, it eased me a ton, because it's not like a spec set. It's not going to be a super duper offensive set, but more than that, it's not going to be it's potentially a Wakan set, right? Because I didn't see leftovers, I didn't see any kind of crazy item. So my first big fear is Wakan. If this is like max defense or defensive enough just to take a hit from Kyurem Black with Wakan and be able to hit it back really, really hard, then that is kind of my bigger fear in this moment, right? Regardless, I kind of have to make some... I kind of have to progress the game forward. So I go into Togekiss, I try to just take the damage, and I believe I roost it off, if I'm not mistaken. Or I try to roost it off here. And again, just getting a feel for the team, because I know it's going to be a reasonably like non-standard team, knowing how Vepsis works, and I just really wanted to get... I just do go for the Air Slash, and we do a just real Citrus. So as soon as I see no Wakan and how defensive it is, now my wheels start turning. Right now, I'm starting to calc out how much damage is my Kyurem doing with a Fusion Bolt, and kind of what is considered range for this Primarina, right? It turns out Fusion Bolt, I think, does around like 60-ish% to a max defense Bolt Primarina, and now that I know that it's not Wakan, I can play my Kyurem a little bit more freely. I have this information now. I feel like I'm in a stronger position than I was a couple turns ago, but now again, now that I have that in my head about what range is for this mon, I feel like I can just go for another Air Slash, try to keep this thing in range, quote unquote. And I do go for a roost, and obviously because it did switch out in that moment, I'm starting to think to myself, if I just get rocks up, I think rocks would constitute like range for that right now, right? So my next bit of thinking is I'm just gonna go into this Sand Slash. It's going to be able to stand up to this Aggron for at least a couple turns, and it's going to be able to rapid spin away these Toxic Spikes, which I think is going to be beneficial for me. Even if this Sand Slash goes down, the Sand Slash is really meant to weaken down the team. It's really meant as kind of a Super Fang thing. It's meant to really annoy a potential Corviknight, but goes back into Primarina, right? Now, I don't know much about this Primarina. I do know that it's really physically defensive. I know that it's eating its Citrus Berry, but I don't know anything about its really moveset, really, right? But I think I held to my guns here, and I think I was confident enough that it would not go for a Scald or an Energy Ball in this moment, right? That I think I felt bold enough to try to hit this thing, to try to go for a Rapid Spin, try to take a hit, or maybe he pulls a double switch here, and something happens that's gonna let my Sand Slash stay up another turn and kind of do something here, right? I got the Poison Spikes off, and he goes for Moon Blast, and I at least have one final turn to like do something, right? It's gonna depend on Poison, obviously, and a couple of other factors. If he switches in, if he stays in, if like whatever happens. But I feel confident enough that my Sand Slash is going to be able to do something. I feel like Spikes is going to be the thing that annoys him the most. It's either going to force a defog, or it's going to bait in the Corviknight now, because he obviously doesn't want to get too much damage onto this Primarina, right? So something is going to put pressure on Vepsis if I just try to get a Spike up now, right? And it's probably the best thing I have to go for. Probably could have Super Fanged. I don't know. Maybe that would have been better. But, however, these Spikes do force this Corviknight to defog, right? And I believe after Poison, I have one final turn. But because I was so confident, I was so confident that he would have to defog on this turn, that I got a little brazen with it, and I went directly out into my Blacephalon. Like I said, I just hard called it immediately. I thought he's gonna defog. If there's any opportunity for me to pull off this one thing that I have with this Blacephalon, then it's gonna be now. So I go into Blacephalon, and you can see I immediately click Trick, because I 1,000,000% expected something to come in, and we will see if it comes in. Type Null comes in, and immediately it's now specs. It can't rest talk, which is the bigger deal, but it also doesn't have an EVLA anymore. So best of all worlds, and this Blacephalon is still around to potentially trick an EVLA onto a member of his team and make it somewhat useless. I feel like I'm deciding a couple things. I think the biggest thing I'm trying to decide is whether or not to go into Miltank and try to set up rocks, or potentially sack off I keep wanting to say Kuwabaris. Sack off Sandslash just for a free switch potential. I think that's what I end up doing, question mark, but I guess we'll see in just a second. Or do I try to hit this thing? No, I do think I switch out. I just can't for the life of me remember exactly what I do. Yeah, I do go into Sandslash. Because again, this thing is going to be specs into something, and I'm still in the mode where I still feel like I have to gather information, right? So this is going to give me the best opportunity possible to be able to figure out what it's most likely, or at least somewhat likely, to specs itself into, to lock itself into, when it just has my entire team to go for, right? So it reveals U-turn, so I don't know, I can't say for sure, but at this point, but knowing Vepsis, I'm kind of thinking that two of the other moves are rest and sleep talk. And if that's true, then we can tentatively start to think about rest, sleep talk, U-turn, and potential move to hit Blacephalon. Maybe. I think the best move, I'm not 100% sure, I don't 100% remember, but I think the best move to hit Blacephalon might be Payback? Or no, I think Get Shadow Ball. Something to that effect. Something to hit Blacephalon. That's where my mind's at, right? But also, Sandslash goes down. At first, maybe I thought I would be able to take the poison, but after I saw the U-turn damage, I knew it was over. It does give me a free switch. I'm also trying to clock my timer as well. I'm a little bit behind on timer, so I really have to start thinking about that. But you can see, I think this is before I really started to look into my timer. But this is an important calculating moment, because I know this thing isn't Wakan. I know I potentially can hit this thing really hard, and I was really nervous in this moment, because if I risk this much on a missed fusion bolt roll, then I will feel really bad about this loss, right? But I put a lot of thought into this, even though I have all the information that I need, right? I know its item. I know how defensive a Premier can be. So I probably put too much thought into this moment than I needed to, but it does allow me to freely fusion bolt. He goes into Aggron. It does very little damage. And it honestly made me concerned that this thing would be Shucko Berry, right? Because Shucko would be the best way to stand up to my Kyurem. But I see leftovers, and that honest to God confused the heck out of me, because it didn't make sense to me to bring an Aggron that wasn't Shucko Berry to be able to take on a mixed Kyurem, because I ran all the calcs, and this is, I believe, an Adamant Kyurem. Or no, it's a Jolly Kyurem. And Kyurem doesn't need any special attack investment. And it can be Jolly, and it can still KO a max HP Aggron from full. I think it has to be like max special defensive and a positive special defense nature just to be able to take an Earth Power. And I'm terrible, so I can tear through Shirty, right? So not being Shucko genuinely confused me in this moment, because Shucko Aggron genuinely stood up to Kyurem in a way that I had to think a ton about. But as soon as I saw the leftovers again, I was pretty certain of what I needed to do, but I think even then it was just a matter of being able to click that button, like against that Primarine. I was really nervous in that moment. What if something misses a roll? What if it's secretly a Shucko and I just am crazy? You know, I don't know. But we get there in the end. We do pick up the KO onto the Aggron, and we can kind of move forward a little bit, right? This Kyurem is in a good position to be able to take some hits. I'm also really thinking a lot about what it would take to KO a max HP Nidoqueen, because as much as I don't want to give, I don't know, basically, I'm still thinking through. Nidoqueen could be super offensive. It could be like max HP. It could be pretty defensive, right? So I'm honestly running through counts because I know that Nidoqueen is probably going to be my biggest problem to at this moment, right? And I'm thinking, like, even if I do have to give up a ton of damage out of my Kyurem, what kind of damage do I need to have Nidoqueen like be less of an issue, right? And I get it. These are all calcs that I probably should be running like before the game, but you know, I guess I was behind on those. But what I'm seeing, right, is that Nidoqueen doesn't need a ton of chip on it for a 3-hit Icicle Spear to be able to Oko a max HP Nidoqueen, if I remember correctly, something to that effect. But the point is that even something as trivial as like rocks once, maybe twice, really shores up those calcs in a way that is important. And I think this is why I'm hovering over Miltank as much as I am, because Miltank is my rocker, I believe. And I'm really starting to kind of put those pieces together in my head and starting to like think about how I need, what are the tools that I need for Kyurem to kind of do what it needs to do. But he pulls a double, which is scary to me, but goes out into type null, right? And I have to imagine I take this turn to click Stealth Rocks. Yeah, because of literally everything that I've been talking about. How important I now know Stealth Rocks to be, right? And because of the fact that I baited this thing in, I'm able to just get a Brox. It's a crit. It's unfortunate, but this is a really specially defensive Miltank, right? And look, before you guys say anything, I know that what was it, Turbo Blaze goes through thick fat, but I really wanted to be able to at least stand up to RESHIRAM, take 1 or 2 hits. And honestly, this was really specially defensive because it's honestly one of my best checks to a really offensive Nidoqueen, which is really not great to say because I just don't have good answers to Nidoqueen, right? Like this is how bad of a position vis-a-vis this Nidoqueen that I am, right? Where I'm depending on a especially defensive Miltank to kind of be my backup to a backup check of it, right? Because I'm so scared of this Nidoqueen. Anyway, you guys can see this Primarina comes in. Now I already know that it's in Kyurem Black range, right? That is a given, right? But now I feel like I have an opportunity to kind of clean this up with Miltank. So I go for a Seismic Toss, goes for Moonblast. And by the looks of it, another Seismic Toss should be able to do it. However, because of other factors, I really want to be healthy enough to be able to, again, take on the Nidoqueen, maybe take a hit from RESHIRAM and be able to do something to it, right? So, admittedly, I get a little bit greedy. I go for a Milk Drink because I am really specially defensive. I see how well I take these Moonblasts. I'm kind of feeling confident in this moment, and I go for a Milk Drink. Vepsis goes for Rest. I should have seen this coming. Admittedly. I'm admitting this. However, I do see how well I take these Moonblasts, right? And I feel like I can see the course a little bit because obviously I'm not going to be able to do what I need to do with Seismic Toss. I get off. I'm able to do half with 2 Seismic Toss, and then you can rest on the third one, and I'm just kind of in an awkward position in front of this Primarina, right? So my thinking here is I still need to kind of go through the motions of pressuring this Primarina with Seismic Toss, because if I get okay Sleep Talk rolls, right, then on this turn he's absolutely forced to click Rest again, which is going to allow in my Kyurem Black, right? So even though I know I'm kind of fighting a losing battle because Seismic Toss is only a 4-hit KO in this scenario, I have to go through the motions in order to condition Vepsis to go for the rest, so I can bring in the Kyurem and I can start doing other things, right? This is kind of how this needs to go, right? And I know I've gotten good, like decent Sleep Talk turn rolls so far. However, the Sleep Talk turns didn't matter a whole ton against my Miltank that is specially defensive, and you guys saw how well it was taking those hits. But I do need 2 hits on this Fusion Ball, right? So I really need a good Sleep Talk roll now, right? And I'm hovering over to a Wing Beat because I really I'm really honestly expecting the Nidoqueen to come in as well. I think that's a possibility at least, right? But I feel a little bit more confident because of rocks, number one, and number two. Yeah, you guys can see. Yeah, that's just a ton of damage to be outputting, right? But I feel a little bit more confident because rocks are up, and I don't know, for whatever reason I just felt confident in that mode. So I really wanted to go for a dual wing beat, but I just saw dual wing beat was not doing enough damage. But Fusion Bolt did so much damage. Fusion Bolt did more damage than I expected, so much so that it does allow me to go for a dual wing beat this turn and shore up the KO, right? Which is big for me because again, it at least just made me feel better if I had to take a Nidoqueen coming in. However, you'll also see that I'm a half a minute down on time, and this is really where it starts to hit me. I do remember this moment actually, because I'm getting to be really low on time, and looking at the state of the game being 5-5, I'm really starting to think about timer in a way that is making me concerned, right? Also, haven't even talked about the fact he gets the perfect sleep talk roll for the scenario. He gets the Moonblast off. He does all that damage, which is just brutal, right? Because he could have gotten Moonblast against my Miltank. It would have been absolutely fine. But he gets it against the Kyurem, and that was kind of devastating. I was really reeling in that moment. Because to be fair, HP on Kyurem doesn't matter a whole ton, but this thing comes in, and under normal circumstances, I'd be able to be confident enough that I'm able to take a hit, and then KO it in return, right? Now that's no longer an option, and I don't feel great about it. I go out into Miltank, and I believe this is the moment where Nidoqueen reveals that it's physical, which is it's so bad. It's so bad. But I had to consider other factors, right? So I'm also thinking about the fact that this thing, this kind of makes me really think that this thing is scarfed, because even though I don't think I know yet, or have reason to know yet, the fact that it was so confident staying in is really making me think scarf. However, this thing also did so much damage that it really gave me pause and made me have to think about. I think I'm actually running calcs right now. I actually think I'm running calcs to determine if this thing is potentially Life Orb, because that kind of damage output is just a lot, right, for me. And regardless, I have to rush through these calcs, and I'm still unsure. I'm telling you, throughout the entire game, I'm never certain. Until the very final turns, I'm never certain whether this Nidoqueen is Life Orbed or it's Scarfed. I think both are equally scary in their own ways, and also are just so tough to deal with, right? And just things that I'm very unequipped for, especially in particular because my way of trying to deal with Nidoqueen is bringing a bunch of specially defensive mons, and if I have to deal with the physical Nidoqueen, that just throws a lot out the window, right? This Miltank was supposed to take hits from a Nidoqueen so much better, but it's physical, so it just doesn't, right? However, this is a blue flare. It allows me to get off a Thunder Wave, right? I'm gonna say right now, it may not look like it now, but it doesn't end up mattering a whole ton. That missed blue flare, because regardless, I'm able to take a blue flare, and you can see I'm really specially defensive Miltank. I want to reiterate that again. But that damage output, and the fact that it took rocks, obviously, 1,000,000,100% confirmed Scarf. And honestly, even now, I was kind of not even like confirming Scarf, but it's this turn right now that I'm thinking, oh my god, this thing is Scarfed. I think I lose. I don't know what to do. I'm panicking. I'm like freaking the heck out. I am off the walls right now. I'm so freaked out, right? However, I have to calm myself down. I have to remind myself this thing is paralyzed. It's not as fast as a potential like Scarf or whatever the case would be. This at least gives me an opening to potentially paraflinch this thing. I have my Togekiss in. It's kind of how this is kind of the flow of this match is kind of meant to go, with multiple Thunder Wavers and having a this Togekiss here. I have to calm myself down, but that damage output from that RESHIRAM freaked me the fuck out. Like, I was bouncing off the walls with how freaked out I was, right? Also, it's not lost on me that we're approaching like 2 minutes on each of our timers, and like a 4 or 5 game or something to that effect. Regardless, I bring in the Blacephalon, right? And it was mostly a sack, right? Obviously, this was mostly a sack because my team, again, does not stand up well to a Nidoqueen Queen. But I was also trying to sneakily gauge damage because I was hoping that if my Blacephalon took a poison jab, then it would at least like help confirm something in terms of confirming a potential Scarf, or if it just got KO'd, then maybe it would at least make me a little bit more confident that it was fully like modest, or sorry, adamant life orb, right? However, I do think that was a roll, if I remember correctly, and I do believe that it kind of threw my attempt at getting a little bit of information out the window. And even now, okay, so honestly, this is the point where Vepsis starts taking a little bit more time, and it's kind of, and I'm really starting to like eye the timer a little bit. Goes into this thing. I might have gone for Earthquake, and yeah, obviously, this was his best play. But bigger point here is that it took a bunch of timer off him, right? And I don't feel particularly threatened by this Corviknight. I kind of have to feel out this Corviknight, and obviously this Corviknight can just roost off damage. It can do a lot, but I really want to fish for a Scald, right? So that's Scald number 1, no burn. We'll deal, we'll manage, right? Goes for a U-turn. It can just quickly get out of here, and we can kind of live to go another day. It goes out into this thing, and again, I'm a little bit confused because we get some rocks damage off on this, and I don't really feel particularly threatened with my Seismitoad in here. So I think I just go for another attack, right? Because I think it's this. To me, obviously, this is just an opportunity to get some type of damage off on it, and look at that. That is some solid ass damage if I've ever seen it. But does get a U-turn off, and he gets some decently solid damage off on me as well. So I don't know. Maybe I should have been more concerned in the moment. But I felt happy with this exchange, in honesty, right? Like I did not expect my Seismitoad to kind of be any kind of late game kind of threat here. I was just kind of trying to take my opportunities, and I thought to myself, if he's giving me the opportunity to spread damage on the team, then I'm gonna spread damage on the team. And he's thinking to himself, I can U-turn cycle, and I can get damage onto this Seismitoad, right? However, now is the moment where I see Citrus on the Corviknight, which also blew my mind because I thought Corviknight was equally likely to be Wakan Berry. I thought one or both of this or Primarina would be Wakan Berry. It blew my mind to see that neither of them were. They were both Citrus Berry, which is fair. Maybe it shorted up some calc against Fusion Volt, but in my mind, I thought it would be really strong for both of them to be Wakan. And to see that neither of them were, genuinely had me reeling in this moment. But now with that bit of information about the Corviknight as well, made me a little bit more confident moving on into the later stages of this game. Seismitoad is kind of weakened, but I felt really good about getting damage on the rest of his team, right? That's where my head was at. I just go for a poison jab. I think the damage difference between EQ was negligible, and I was honestly just kind of fishing for a poison. He gets a U-turn off and gets more damage off on my Seismitoad. Now, I'll be honest, it did not really occur to me what he was trying to do here, but seeing how low I let my Seismitoad get is really weird to see. Just watching this game back, and I think a lot of this was time pressure. I felt so time pressure. I really felt this time pressure. I want everyone to know that both of us felt this time pressure, because obviously under normal circumstances, if I can get that word out, Vepsis would be able to roost up on this Corviknight. It would be able to at least get more hits off on my Seismitoad and be able to do more here, right? However, because of his own time pressure, he feels that he can't roost because if now I've honestly done my job and I've made up so much time in terms of timer, and he just kind of took up timer time that I think I'm a couple seconds ahead of Vepsis. So now Vepsis is thinking to himself, if I roost and I extend this game out too far, now yeah, I have like 15 seconds on him. It looks like if he takes too much time, if he clicks roost, and if he extends this game out further, he's gonna lose on timer. Excuse me for that. I've been talking a really long time now, but I had to check because I had to think to myself, did he ever defog rocks? But he didn't. I don't know why I was so confused about that in the moment. I think again, it was just this dang time pressure that was messing with both of our heads, right? I really do think I would love to see Vepsis' side, but I really think the time pressure was getting to both of us in a way that really affected our play. Like, genuinely, honest to goodness, affected our play. Goes for the poison jab, right? And again, I have to reiterate, at this point in the game, I still have no idea what this Nidoqueen is. I have guesses. I've like educated guesses. I'm running behind on timer again. Fuck. I mean, I just can't win. You can see Vepsis. Vepsis took 2 seconds on that last turn on timer, and so he's thinking about it as much as I am. He's really working as much as I am to kind of get this game in, hopefully under regulation, but obviously not lose time as well, right? And anyway, I know that my Kyurem is faster than any Nidoqueen, and I had to test out the waters, right? Because either Seismitoad gave me so much damage on the team that my Kyurem can win from this position, or this thing is scarfed and I never win from this position, right? But you guys saw the Nidoqueen is scarfed, and I just felt really bad at that moment, right? I really genuinely thought that I lost this game when I saw that the Nidoqueen was scarfed. I believe I go for knock. I don't remember why I go for knockoff. That's a weird one to me. That's a really weird one to me, but it does some damage. It gets a crit, right? Goes for a U-turn. Gets me down a little bit lower. That is really low. Again, watching this back is really difficult because I didn't realize how much damage I was just giving up for free on my side of it, dude. But I really didn't see the vision, and I don't think I was in a position to really see the vision because of this time pressure. But brings in this type null, which is honestly probably not ideal for him, because it gives me a round of lefties. It lets me take this thing out and get another round of lefties. And I don't know if you guys see where this end game is going, but there's a very clear way that this end game is going, because once this thing goes down, and because the Corviknight took all the damage, it's in range of rocks. Even if it wasn't, that knockoff would have put it in range of rocks plus a Scald, right? So I would have been fine there too. But it allows in the Nidoqueen, right? And this is Vepsis' last chance, really. Because you gotta remember, the last two mons are Paralyzed RESHIRAM and a Corviknight that's slower, right? So, he goes for an Earthquake, and Seismitoad hangs on 4 HP. And I Earthquake back, and I pick up the KO. Now, there's so much that went into this final turn, right? And again, I just told you guys like what's in the back, right? There's a Corviknight that goes down to rocks and a RESHIRAM that's paralyzed. But there's so much that went into this. These calcs were insane. These calcs were in neither of our favors. However, at the HP number that I was at, he had a 43% chance to KO my Seismitoad, and I had a 31% chance to KO that Nidoqueen back. And both of those rolls just happened to go my way. And it's how this game ends, right? We're both down to like 35 seconds on our clocks. But this game ends on Seismitoad standing up to Nidoqueen and being able to take it on. This was like 40 straight minutes of just furious calcing, so much stress, constant time pressure, so many decisions had to be made, so much had to go right for me. And like I said, with the benefit of hindsight, it's really tough to watch back all that damage that I let him get onto my Seismitoad. And literally, genuinely, I think if I was able to see the vision a little bit earlier, I could have played around it, right? I could have made a couple key switches since I knew that he wanted to constantly U-turn in and out. I could have made some plays differently and preserved HP on my Seismitoad if I realized in the moment that HP on Seismitoad was going to be so important for how that game ended. However, even if I did all that, everything really came down to that 31% chance roll. And again, I don't even think I really even hit the Nido Queen. So getting on Brox when I did was crucial because I think it came in on Rock 3 times to even enable that count, right? So many things had to come together in order to make all that possible. But that'll be week 3. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be back really soon with more weeks of the UPBA as well as more weeks of other things to come really soon. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Maybe once again, out.